interview them afterwards too. Hi, good day. My name is Jeremy Chapman, and here today we are at the Tobago Chamber. Today we have the Youth Parliament sitting, and we basically, this is part of the Tobago Day, you would say, celebrations. Tobago Day, what is Tobago Day, you would ask? Tobago Day is a day which basically was made to signify or to celebrate more of Tobago's autonomy, part autonomy, which started in 1980, right? Now Tobago Day has become a day of celebration for the young business people of Tobago and even the everyday Tobagonian and bringing forward Tobago for a better, right? So I just want to interview a few people. I don't know if anybody would be interested to be interviewed. Nobody? You don't mind being interviewed? How are you going? All right, you'll tell me what's your name, what school you're from, and basically what does Tobago Day mean to you?
My name is Antonia Jerome. I represent Miss North Secondary School. Tobago Day is what Tobago Day is to me is the day that Tobago was found by Christopher Columbus. So we celebrate Tobago Day annually.
Okay, all right. So, what do you think a setting like this would benefit to the young people of Tobago?
A sitting like this would encourage young people to be more into the politics and the representation of Tobago.
Okay, all right. So there we have it from Miss. What's your name again?
Antonia.
Antonia, right? So here we at the Tobago Chamber today, and we obviously here for the youth sit-in, right? Some simple questions I want to ask. What do you think the opportunity like this would have for the young people of Tobago and developing Tobago even more?
Well, first of all, let me say that I am here from the Goodwood Secondary School, and we have two students who are representing our school. I know that one of our students in particular wants to become a lawyer. And so as the guidance counselor for Goodwood Secondary, I have been working with him and helping him along his career path, encouraging him, showing him the subject areas he has to have in order for him to be able to pursue his degree as to become a lawyer. Recently, I have been instrumental in assisting him to go on that study tour that you all normally would take them on. And so that also, is a boost in his career path. And I believe that these types of activities would definitely prepare them in the development of Tobago and by extension, Trinidad and Tobago and the world. I believe that out of these experiences, they would be able to go forward and talk about our country. Law today is not just the traditional in the sense of just becoming a lawyer, but we have so many different areas in the career now. We have industrial lawyers, we have environmental lawyers, and so the list is really long. So they can find themselves anywhere in the world sharing, Tobago and by extension Trinidad and Tobago, right?
So I actually went on that tour as well. And I would say from being on that experience, you'll be able to realize what our country has and appreciate it more. And then you'll be able to realize where we can take Tobago even to being a more developed island, right? Because we went to the island of Jersey, which is an island smaller than Tobago, but it has twice the amount of people as Tobago. And they are very developed. And their system is so similar to us that I believe an opportunity like this for the young people to speak their minds, put forward different topics is a good opportunity for them. So thank you so much, miss. Thank you. Right? You just tell me what's your name and what school you're from.
I'm Giovanni Williams. I'm Skyway Secondary School.
Right? What does Tobago Day mean to you?
Tobago Day means basically a day in which persons celebrate the culture and the history and all about what Tobago is like to influence and to encourage the Tobago lifestyle.
Right. Okay. I know you did this last year as well, right? So you're doing this again this year. What do you think this opportunity, what do you think it gives the young people of Tobago to help develop the island?
I think this opportunity is a great opportunity to teach young people life skills and being able to present in front of a crowd and being able to formulate speeches and so on. It gives you an opportunity to have so many life skills that would teach you and be able to encourage your friends, your peers, your parents to get up and become innovative and to become creative to contribute to the change in economy in Tobago.
Right. Yeah, just tell me your name.
My name is Stephen James, and not only that, it gives young people an in-depth look at how policies are made, how the government is run, and anytime they witness it, they will have a clear idea of what is going on, how laws are made, how it is passed, and why certain things take so long to do, because everyone had to agree on the point, because democracy.
Right. Okay, let's see. I don't know if you all went on the tours, any of the tours so far, or looking forward to go on the tours. But from the experience of the tour, you'll be able to appreciate some things that we have and some things that we don't have, right? Do you think you would see some of these study tours are some beneficial to the young people here and give them more encouragement to come forward and to be able and do different activities?
Well, going on these trips would give us a free opportunity to see a lot of things that are missing from the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, or even Tobago, when zooming in. So you would be able to actually do a comparison to bring some of those innovative ideas and businesses here in Tobago so that it could flourish and better the economy of Tobago.
Okay, so what about you two? Do you all have any upcoming ideas or upcoming projects you're working on that help develop Tobago? Any of you?
I cannot have at this age no big idea to really make a big impact in Tobago, but I have a few ideas which I think could develop Tobago, which encourage more tourists to come here, help people be more appreciative of their culture, because as you see, when you go out, we also see things, but we also see things that we have that we can appreciate as a small thing like retirement. When we hear someone at age of 60, it's retirement, other countries, they work and work and work till they die. And that is something we could appreciate as Tobagonians, as we culture, that is a norm.
All right, thank you so much, guys. So we continue here with some coverage of the Tobago Day celebrations.
Students, parents, special guests in the chamber, permit me to recognize the presence of the presiding officer of the Tobago House of Assembly and the Honorable Chief Secretary, the Honorable Kelvin Charles, members of the media and viewers. We are live at the Assembly Legislature at the 6th Annual Assembly Plenary Sitting, and so it's a very hearty welcome to all of you. My name is Avion Hercules, and I'm your moderator for this afternoon's proceedings. This year, a new initiative was added to the list of activities for the students and adults in the form of a social media competition titled My First Speech. Videos from the competition, My First Speech, are based on the theme, What Does Democracy Mean to Me? We now go live to these videos.
Hi, I am Rihanna McPherson, a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, where democracy is considered the only legitimate form of government. Since 1889, when Tobago was integrated administratively with Trinidad, the dual dynamic on the road to democratic development has seen many rough seas, literally. By 1925, we became one of 7 constituencies, part of a bigger picture to which many realized that we were at a great disadvantage. The creation of the THA in 1980 marked a new era for our island. But to me, the notion of democracy remains buried in my school textbook. But we have a role in influencing decisions. Democracy dares to make room for all kinds of people and ideas. Democracy is freedom, equality, and it is my right to an opinion without judging my wallet or my hair. Democracy to me is my chance to choose and our responsibility to bring a change. Thank you.
What does democracy mean to you? When I think of democracy, I think of 1, 2, buckle my shoe, step up and decide to challenge the status quo, be the change our country needs, give issues a voice, the right to freedom of speech. Well, that's my democracy. 3, 4, shut the door, but leave a headstone behind. Never forget the process that came before the democratic door opened. Colonial control we fought against, rules and systems put in place by the British Parliament. 1769, established the Tobago House of Assembly 1887, abolished the old representative system 1889, annexed to Trinidad and introduced to the Crown Colony Government 1945, adult suffrage for everyone 21 and above. 5, 6, pick up sticks and letters of the alphabet to form political parties. 1962, independent. 1976, republic. 1976, adult suffrage revised to 18 and over. 1980, reform of the Tobago House of Assembly. 7, 8, lay them straight. There set the foundation. There is no democracy without transparency, accountability, advocacy, and inclusion. 9, 10, a democratic nation where side by side we stand, where every creed and race finds an equal place.
Democracy is a term used loosely. It constitutes individual freedom and the power to a voice. It's worth taking a moment to consider what it really means to me. It is freedom to do as I choose, the opportunity to vote, to get any job and not be discriminated against. Democracy is constantly being redefined over time. In 1768, the Tobago House of Assembly, or THA, was created. It was the pinnacle of freedom. Democracy was limited to a selected few. However, the Belmano riots set the tone for modern democracy. Thereafter, the political pride was diminished when we became a ward of Trinidad. E.N.R. Robinson championed the court right to self-determination by re-establishing the THA in 1980, and our current plight for internal self-government is currently before Parliament. The words of democracy lies within ourselves and the way we live our lives from wake to sleep. It allows us to control our present and our future by being able to face challenges without obstacles of inequality. This might be a touch idealistic, for issues of inequality are still rampant today. Nevertheless, whereas the past people were silenced for different reasons, they were still not given a voice, and they can be heard today. Under its protection, individuals are empowered to act and to speak. It does not subjugate and it does not silence.
What does democracy mean to me? D. The oldest political organization incarnated in 1768, that's the THA for you. Unicameral autonomous legislature comprised of elected members who serve you. E. Elected, 12 members selected to make up this executive and legislative. M. Making decisive decisions because we, the people, have a vision. O. Of the people, by the people, for the people, that's how it should be. But sadly, this system doesn't always work for we. C. Campaign premises year after year, started in 1980, yet still little fulfillment up to this year. R. Rights. We have the right to the freedom of choice by simply using our voice. A. Autocratic. That's not we. Them politicians have to listen to we. C. Come on, let's work in unity to make a sweeter TNT. Why? Yes, we the citizens must stand up in this fight. Vote. After all, it's our democratic right.
democracy mean to me? I'm wrapped to us to share what democracy means to me. Democracy basically means having the right to freedom of speech, the freedom of will, the right to vote, and the opportunity to voice your opinions. For me, being a part of a democratic society means that I can voice my opinion, I can also declare my vote, and by doing this noble act, my country will be the best it can be, and each citizen can then feel dignified as a contribution to the holistic development of our country. My awareness of democracy is really informed by my knowledge of the price others had to pay for our country to be a democracy. Our vibrant island, Tobago, was under the control of British in 1803. Then, in 1889, it was joined to form a single colony. In 1899, Tobago formally became a ward of the colony. And in 1962, Trinidad and Tobago gained their independence. I am Kelowna Ashby, and I have rights.
Forged from the love of liberty, in the fires of hope and prayer. These are the beginning words of our national anthem. Forged from our love of liberty, our love of freedom, we fought and rallied and moved from a crown colony under British rule to a self-governed nation. Fought over by colonists in the 16th century. United with Trinidad in 1889, Tobago established a system of democracy that is the Tobago House of Assembly to give us what our ancestors strived for. A choice to choose our leaders, to choose what happens to our country, what happens to us, the people. What does democracy mean to me? It means that I get to have a vote, a voice, a way to make myself heard. Democracy allows me, allows you, allows us all to speak up for what we believe in. It gives us the liberty and freedom that we once hoped and prayed for. Forged from the love of liberty in the fires of hope and prayer.
Plato viewed democracy as a system of government in which public opinion shapes the ideas and views of the citizen. And for this tiny island, no truer definition can be given. In 1816, the motto Pulchrio Evanet, she becomes more beautiful, was adopted and is the foundation on which Tobago as an island stands. A non-democratic Tobago once existed, where the white population was put in charge under the British colonial system to rule the island, since the prerequisite for voting was set out of reach of the majority of voters. Tobagonians then started to obtain wealth, and the Tobago House of Assembly, which existed at that time, was deliberately dissolved in 1877. Tobago then became a ward of Trinidad in 1889. Democracy for me is A.P.T. Fargo James, who may possibly be called the father of Tobago politics, who in the 1930s advocated for political, social, and economic development of Tobago. A.N.R. Robinson continued this trend of democracy through the current Tobago House of Assembly established in 1980, and fought for internal self-government, creating the autonomy which exists today. Democracy is therefore not a definition buried in a textbook, but the THA, a vibrant entity with an important role in influencing decisions which affect the people of this island as she becomes more.
Tobago's legislature, the evolution of power, the evolution of trust. The change in the group of individuals who are elected to make rules for us. From the 1961 sitting with the House of Representatives in Parliament till now. From we read and we ready to we voting top. And even by swimming from the port of Tobago to the shores of Togo. The evolution process is true. From the time of Granny and Mommy, now it met you.
Democracy for me means freedom of speech, thoughts, and expression, which means that we the people who are not in government are free to voice our opinion. We have the power to speak to our government to ensure that we have an efficient and effective governance. Democracy focuses on both the individual and collective good of all citizens. Democracy gives us the power to choose. In some countries, teenagers like myself are being deprived of basic human rights, such as education, due to the absence of democracy. However, as a young woman living in Tobago, I am free to pursue all my dreams and aspirations. I am free to choose whoever I want to be. This is what democracy means to me. Thank you.
All right, we're right back here at the Tobago Chamber for the Tobago Day, basically the youth sitting of the Parliament. Right here I have Mr. Map with me. Come in, Lisa. I have Mr. Map with me. Now I got to know this guy through the UK study tour that we went on together. Mr. Map, how are you today?
I'm fine, very fine. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. So here we are at the Tobago Day celebrations of, well, the celebration of Tobago Day, and we're having the youth sitting today, right? I know you went on the study tour with me. What do you think that the study tour probably, what you would say knowledge or information the study tour gave the young people who went on it, and for them to appreciate Tobago more and appreciate the opportunities they have?
Well, good afternoon or good morning to everyone whenever you see this taping. The study tour was a magnificent experience. I think if there was a chance for every young person in Tobago to go there, I think it would be an amazing experience for them. I must commend the organizers, the Assembly Legislature, and everyone who would have taken part in putting it together. It was a good orientation for the young people to realize that the world is not just Tobago, and help them to realize that if they had a chance to see things in a different light, it really changes the way they look at things. So I think it's an excellent experience, and commendations to everyone concerned.
Well, I know when we were on the island of Jersey is smaller than Tobago, but it has 2 times the amount of people on it, and it's more developed, right? And while we were there, on my side, I got appreciation for our culture more, and our appreciation for the things that we don't have as yet. What do you think that the way we went and studied about the island can impact the way the young people deliver different opportunities or different projects again? You would say different projects to develop Tobago more.
I think one of the things that stood out for me with Jersey was the level of representation the island had, where we would have just 12 assemblymen. In Jersey, it was maybe 3 per district.
Yeah,
and to
51, I think it was.
Yeah, it was 51, a full house. Yes. And to me, any young person would have gone there should come back feeling as if, hey, we have to have better representation here. Democracy has to have a different meaning. You can't look at life the same way. You can't have just 12 people speaking our voice. It has to be more than that. It has to be deeper than that. It has to be more expansive. So any young person who have experienced that, been to Jersey, seen what they do, must come back crying out for a greater representation where democracy is concerned.
Okay. The opportunity they have today to speak on different topics and you would say issues on the island of Tobago, do you think that after speaking today that their voice would be heard as much as you would say the people who are really in the assemblyman seat?
I think it depends on the level of marketing that happens even beyond this speaking today. To what extent are we going to put this on the different radio stations, put it on the TV stations? It will depend a lot on the organizers to make this thing really work, to make the voices heard. Because the people who are heard are the squeaky wheel gets the greasing, right? So it's for us as the organizers, us as the planners, us as the one who trying to make this thing work, to really make it marketable. Because I think it's possible. I think the voices can be heard, but it depends on those what they do with it after this day happens.
All right, Mr. Map, thank you so much for being in this interview with me.
I must commend you because I met you on the study tour, and you're an asset to Tobago. So may God bless you and keep you.
Okay, thank you so much. So here we at the Tobago Chamber, we'll continue with our coverage here. We're getting closer to the time where we go and experience the Youth Parliament sitting. And basically this is a part of the Tobago Day celebrations. Just a reminder that we have a lot of more activities coming up on the 6th and 7th at the Shaw Park Complex, I think starting from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. There are a lot of activities, a lot of young entrepreneurs from Tobago going to be there showcasing all their talent. And we wish to see you, each and every one of you there. So as we get closer to the time, I'll just probably hand you back over to the team and we'll continue the coverage.
Celebrating the Festival of Politics. Permit me to recognize the presence of Assemblyman Shomari Hector, Dr. Agatha Carrington, and Assemblyman Marisha Osmond of the Tobago House of Assembly. So those were some of the videos submitted by our talented young people, sharing under the theme, What Democracy Means to Me. I hope that you enjoyed them. And just to let you know, the results will be shared at the end of the debate. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the audience, we now go directly into the 6th Annual Youth Assembly Plenary Sitting at the Tobago House of Assembly. Thank you.
As we have come together to begin our meeting of the Assembly, we humbly beseech you to grant to all our members the light and guidance of your Holy Spirit, that we may wisely take counsel together and come to such decisions as shall promote your glory and the well-being of all our citizens in this our land, so that the peace and happiness, truth and justice may be enjoyed by all people. Grant this for the sake of Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Oath of allegiance of a new member. Announcements by the presiding officer. Assembly bills sent back from cabinet. Assembly laws brought back from parliament. Petitions.
In the absence of the member for Bukumong St. George, I would like to ask one of her colleagues to fit in for her.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I wish to present a petition on behalf of Scarborough Secondary School students' body. This petition highlights the traffic those experience when attending school. I now ask the clerk of this assembly be permitted to present this petition. Thank you.
Clerk.
Petition of the student body of Scarborough Secondary School. To the presiding officer and members of the Tobago House of Assembly. The humble petition of Tavern James, age 18, student. Alex Job Thomas, age 18, student. Giovanni Williams, age 18, student. Ryan Beckles, age 18, student. Tinamaret Pitcher, age 18, student. Respectfully show it that for several decades, student safety when crossing the road in the vicinity of the Milford Road and Old Government Farm Road have always been a major concern. That motorists ignore the zebra crossing at the said location and students cross at their own risk, risking the possibility of injury to life and limb. That 2 students in recent times were severely injured while crossing at that said location. That students and teachers and all who travel that area during business hours are fearful for their lives when crossing. Your petitioners pray that your Honorable House will acknowledge the concerns expressed above by the students of Scarborough Secondary School and resolve that traffic police officers be posted at the junction mentioned above between the hours of 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. and from 2:45 p.m. to 4 p.m. during the school term to alleviate the crossing problems that students experience when attending. Dated this 29th day of November 2018. Papers, presentation of reports, questions to secretaries.
Member for Palliative Lands from his Speyside.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Question to Secretary of Tourism, Culture and Transportation. Provide a comprehensive review of the new marketing and promotion strategy for Tobago that shows what taxpayers' money will be paying for.
Secretary for Tourism and Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. The Division of Tourism, Culture and Transportation have made significant progress over the past 2 years. In an effort to revitalize and develop the tourism industry in Tobago, this administration has taken a number of progressive steps towards this aim. These include the creation of the Tobago Tourism Agency, which is vested with the responsibility of marketing and updating our strategies and tools of the destination. The appointment of the company's first CEO, first Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Louis Lewis, who is well-versed in the tourism sector and contributed to the development in tourism in the industry in St. Lucia and the region. Investing in youth with the creation of tourism youth clubs in secondary schools. These 7 youth clubs were created to foster youth development in tourism and for the sustainability of the sector. As a result of this, we had our first Junior Secretary of Tourism, Mr. Jamoon Madden, who represented Tobago at the Caribbean Youth Congress in Bahamas in October of this year. And I am pleased to inform this House that he represented us well, placing 4th overall and copying best overall male. Launch of the new brand Tobago Beyond Ordinary, unspoiled, untouched, undiscovered. This brand has been tested and successfully marketed at the World Travel Market in London. In addition to that, we have contracted a black cab to advertise the brand there. Arranging and negotiating new and existing flights to the island. I'm pleased to announce a new flight out of the Canadian market operated by Sunwing Airlines. Direct flights from Toronto will operate on Thursdays between December 20th, 2018 and April 18th, 2019, inclusive. Sunwing, who operates the Boeing 737, is anticipated to be the only Canadian leisure carrier to offer a direct flight service to this tropical destination. Mr. President Officer, I thank you.
Request for leave to move the adjournment of the Assembly on definite matters of urgent public importance. Statements by secretaries or assistant secretaries.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. On the 7th of September 2018, students from secondary schools across Tobago embarked on an eye-opening journey that not only allowed for a deeper understanding of the Westminster system of government, but push-started the conversation of autonomy among youths in Tobago. The first 2 days of our trip were spent in State of Jersey, a crown colony dependency with its own constitutional rights and system of self-government. Each student was astonished by how developed the island was, despite only being 119.5 square kilometers in size with a population of 100,000. While there, we engaged in a tour of the island in which we were able to gain a background of the history and language of Jersey. However, the most notable experience in Jersey was witnessing their parliament in action. Students and teachers alike were amazed that such a small island was able to make their own decisions and delegate actions concerning their people. We were able to identify ways in which Tobago could improve how they conduct affairs, along with the benefits of self-governance within our island. Those 2 days in Jersey illustrated how becoming autonomous was completely attainable and required commitment in order to be fulfilled. Our next destination was London, where we focused our attention on the Westminster system of government. We went to the Houses of Parliament, where we witnessed the Prime Minister's questions and listened to members feverishly discuss the topics such as Brexit, Windrush, the unemployment rate, and transportation issues, among others. Students were intrigued by the decision-making process within the House of Lords and the House of Commons. Just as in Jersey, a comparison was quickly drawn between Trinidad and Tobago's relationship and the one between England and Scotland. During a discussion with a member of the House of Lords, it was stated that Scotland was previously in a similar state as Tobago concerning dependency, yet over time became autonomous. This showed the many that the journey to autonomy would not be a short one, but is readily achievable for all who desire it. A visit to the Trinidad and Tobago Embassy in London gave the entire delegation a taste of home. There, we were welcomed by a true Tobagonian, High Commissioner Orville London. We engaged in a fruitful discussion ranging from topics such as reparations to the role of the embassy in the UK. This study tour allowed students to see the world from another perspective. In roughly 1 week, we learned the value of not only autonomy, but also self-development in terms of our accountability, time management, responsibility, and maturity. This opportunity is one that students must not waste, as it is a step towards the future development of Tobago. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Personal explanations, introductions of bills, motion.
Before I introduce the mover of the motion, please be reminded that the use of cellular phones in this chamber is strictly prohibited. Mover of the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer, for the privilege of addressing this House. Greetings to all my fellow colleagues. I wish to bring this motion standing in my name. Whereas the Tobago House of Assembly has the responsibility for secondary schools in education in Tobago under the 5th schedule of the Constitution. And whereas the THA, Department of Education, has a structure complete with staff to deal with administration education to all on the island. And whereas any challenges with the education system, such as bullying, falls within the remit of the Education Division. And whereas bullying has escalated to crisis proportion in schools, Be it resolved that the youth members in this house create a task force to develop a student-led awareness campaign against bullying. Be it further resolved that this task force identifies youth-friendly support service for victims and rehabilitation options for perpetrators of bullying that can be implemented by students. And be it further resolved that the task force commit to working with the Division of Education, Innovation and Energy and the Division of Sport and Youth Affairs to implement the recommendation of this House. Bullying is defined as an action of misconduct towards another person repeatedly, which can cause physical damage and psychological damage to the victim. Bullying can come in many forms such as physical, verbal, and cyberbullying. Mr. Presiding Officer, a task force must be established to clamp down on bullying. Mr. Presiding Officer, we, the members of this House, must play our part to build communities of peace and harmony in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Members, the motion put before this House is, whereas the Tobago House of Assembly has the responsibility for secondary school education in Tobago under the 5th schedule of the Constitution, and whereas the THA, Department of Education, has a structure complete with staff to deal with administrating of education on the island, and whereas any challenges with the educational system, such as bullying, falls within the remit of the Division of Education, and whereas bullying has escalated to crisis proportions in schools, be it resolved that the youth members in this House create a task force to develop student-led awareness campaign against bullying. Be it further resolved that this task force identifies youth-friendly support systems for victims and rehabilitation options for perpetrators of bullying that can be implemented by students. Be it further resolved that this task force commit to working with the Division of Education, Innovation and Energy and the Division of Sport and Youth Affairs to implement the recommendations of this House. Member for Belgarden.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Mr. Presiding Officer, as a representative of the youths in Tobago, I stand here confidently to support the motion of this development of a task force in our school system. Mr. Presiding Officer, according to the Trinidad Guardian on the 16th of November 2017, the Unified Teachers Association, Mr. Lendley Duhai, quoted, "The bullying in secondary school is on a rise." Mr. Presiding Officer, according to the Newsday on the 2nd of November 2017, an interview was conducted with several students and was asked the question, is bullying a crime? The students was interviewed. The first student quoted, "I think bullying is a crime because intimidating other students, reducing their sense of confidence, thereby making them feel fearful of others." The second student said, quote, "I think bullying is a crime because when you bully someone, you can hurt them emotionally and physically." And the last student quoted said, quote, "I think bullying is a serious crime because when you bully, you disobey the rights of saying you must be protected from hurt. When you have the right to play and friend." Mr. Speaker, if children could say bullying is a crime, isn't it clear that some kind of task force system should be implemented in the school system? Yet, bullying continues to be a problem. Yet, victims are being bullied and forced that they don't think they don't deserve a place in their classroom or school. I recommend that the school should create a camp, a youth-friendly camp. This camp teaches the victim and both bully about compassion and loving one another. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Member for Kinan Bonaccord.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer, for the opportunity to speak. I stand against this motion in the light of the gross economic situation that the nation is being faced with today. It would be unwise for the THA to allocate national resources to create the task force towards the settlement of domestic abuse, that is bullying. It would be more prudent for the Tobago House of Assembly to ally themselves closer with the various religious bodies to implement strategic plans to foster healthy, moral, and ethical values and principles within the perpetrators of such acts. Instead of duplicating efforts, more attention should be focused on strengthening the various youth bodies, such as the police youth clubs and the youth guidance counselors, so they can have more profound reach and impact on our young people today. Also, instead of sending a task force, which will become a foreign body to youths, why not leave peer-to-peer counseling to do its job, as youths would feel more comfortable and familiar with the people around their own age. Furthermore, there's not only one form of bullying. So, Mr. Presiding Officer, I ask you, how does the task force intend to go about preventing, for example, cyberbullying and the mental repercussions that will scar the lives of these victims? Mr. Presiding Officer, I thank you.
Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer, for the opportunity to address this humble house. First of all, let us establish the fact that there are different types of bullying. Now, I strongly disagree with the creation of a task force to implement youth-friendly support systems for bullies and victims. Allow me to state my reasons. I believe that, one, this will be a waste of money and resources. Instead, we can use the money we intend to spend on these campaigns and support systems on things like scholarships for tertiary education. So when students leave secondary school, they will be able to further their education for the better so that they will be able to pursue a career of their choice right here in Tobago. Let us use the money to equip schools with the necessary resources to prepare students for CXC move to online examinations. Oh, and my friend over there, can you tell me, is there any guarantee that these bullies and their victims are going to show up? Mr. Presiding Officer, let us use what we already have. Honorable members, don't forget about the cybercrime bill, which treats with the cyberbullying. There is also defamation of character act, which can be used to deal with perpetrators and verbal bullying. The student support services, and just in case if you have forgotten what that is, permit me to remind you. The student support service consists of psychologists, social workers, and guidance officers who are indeed equipped, trained, and qualified. Unless this task force will consist of these members of the student support services, I don't believe that the youth members of this house are indeed equipped, trained, or competent of its bullying victims. Honorable members, Mr. Presiding Officer, Unless there is a different approach taken, I believe that we'll be wasting...
Member, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Mr. Presiding Officer, I beg to move the speaking time of the member be extended by a further 2 minutes.
Members, the question is that the speaking time for the honorable member be extended by a further 2 minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it. Member, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. As I was saying, unless there is a different approach that will be taken, I believe that we'll be wasting our teachers' time and effort and our parents' money. I thank you.
Member for Providence, Mission Hall, Mariah.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer, for the opportunity to contribute to this important motion in this August House. Mr. Presiding Officer, I don't think the members of the minority understand the severity of this motion because they did not even suggest amendments to this motion. They stand here and oppose. One may ask, what is bullying? According to the greatest philosopher, Google, bullying is the use of superior strength or influence to intimidate someone, typically to force them to do something. All bullying incidents are not the same, but all bullying incidents can reach traumatic proportions, whether it be physical and or psychological. Let's give Jack his jacket. Bullying is bullying. Let us not sugarcoat this issue. All bullying must be dealt with in a sense of urgency. I urge you members opposite to not put a scale on bullying. You cannot measure physical pain and you certainly cannot measure psychological pain. The motion seeks to create a task force to develop a student-led awareness campaign against bullying. It also states that this task force identify youth-friendly support systems for victims and rehabilitation options for perpetrators of bullying. I repeat, rehabilitation options for perpetrators of bullying. Yes, we care about the perpetrators. They are human beings, not objects. Mr. Presiding Officer, some may argue the timing of this motion, asking why now? Let me tell you why now. One of the aims of this motion is to decrease headlines such as students suspended after boy stomped on head during fight, suspended students in school brawl could be expelled, and pupil badly beaten after alleged bullying incident. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words cannot harm me. The members opposite will use this like having broken bones is like another day in paradise.
Honorable member, your time has expired.
Mr. Presiding Officer, I beg that the speaking time of the honorable member be moved by a further 2 minutes. Thank you.
Members, the question is that the speaking time for the honorable member be extended by a further 2 minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. All against? The ayes have it. Member, you may continue.
I would like to read from a Guardian article dated Friday, 3rd September 2017. Headline, Boy, 9, beaten by school bully. The mother of the 9-year-old boy who underwent emergency surgery yesterday to repair his shattered shoulder after being beaten by a bully in school said someone has to pay for a child's injuries. I cannot imagine the physical and psychological pain that this child and his mother went through. We cannot put a price on bullying incidents. In closing, I urge you members opposite to support this motion. This motion seeks to start a process. It seeks to create a positive tool for youth development and national development. Let us stop allowing bullies to be bullies. If we allow bullies to escalate, making an application for the University of Riemanniad, and they graduate with masters and doctorates in crime, well, what a web we weave. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Member for Bacalet Mount St. George.
Good afternoon, Mr. Presiding Officer. I'd first like to thank you for letting me have a stand in support of this motion. Good afternoon to my colleagues and audience. This motion focuses on bullying, on building a youth awareness campaign for bullying and the rehabilitation for the bullies. In my opinion, bullying is when someone is intimidated by you. Bullies target their victim by marking the way they look and behave. I know someone who has been both a victim and a bully. This individual was targeted when the victim observed how the bully had interacted with persons around her. On the other hand, the person decided to give her a taste of her own medicine. But this person did not stop. It was continued for a period of time. In this case, both individuals were victim and bully. Over the past 2 years, bullying had increased. Research has shown that in 2016, 20.8 students reported being bullied. Let me remind you of the comprehensive student who was beaten in the head and transferred to hospital, then to Trinidad. Let's not forget the Roxborough student who was beaten by 5 students. I myself had been bullied, but I had put a stop to it. Persons who have been bullied either sustain injuries, headaches, mental breakdowns, or lack of focus. I'm sure no one wants to hear the child bawling, "Mommy, my head hurting me, Mommy, my head hurting," and carrying the child back and forth to hospital. In conclusion, I do believe that we need this task force. Not only students are being bullied, this can be taking place at homes, police youth groups, and many other places. What is the importance of this task force, you may ask? Well, this force is important to help the victims feel safe, more confident, and increase their self-esteem. Mr. Presiding Officer, there should be a meeting where persons who had been bullied tell their stories and how this had reflected on them.
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I beg to move the speaking time to be extended a further 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Members, the question is that the speaking time for the Honourable Member be extended by a further 2 minutes. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
All against say nay. The ayes have it, Member. You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. There should also be a guidance counseling meetings for the bullies to help them release their anger. I ask my colleagues and audience, as a parent, how can you handle the fact that your child has committed suicide, seeing their lifeless bodies, now finding out they were victims of bullying? And the government that was put in place to protect our citizens had done nothing. Mr. Presiding Officer, I thank you.
Member for Lambo, Signal Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer, for this opportunity to stand in this august house. Mr. Presiding Officer, the motion today is caused for critical thinking and constructive deliberation on how to deal with this endemic problem of bullying. Mr. Presiding Officer, before I continue, according to Google, bullying is the use of superior strength or influence to intimidate someone, simply to force them to do something. Mr. Presiding Officer, the Honorable Member for Mason Hall Moriah, let us take into consideration the factors that are responsible for bullying. Mr. Presiding Officer, family background or dispute amongst families. Sometimes witnessing domestic violence plays a major role in damaging the child mentally. Which leads the child to lash out on other students because of anger that is built up. Victim of bullying. Mr. Presiding Officer, in most cases, the bullies themselves were actually victim of bullying. And in order to gain a sense of power, they tend to target persons which are much weaker than them. Mr. Presiding Officer, lack of attention in homes, in schools, or even groups. Many times, the bullies are actually crying out for love, crying out for attention, crying out for appreciation. Mr. Presiding Officer, permissive parenting. This also leads a child in becoming a bully.
Honorable Member, your time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I beg to move that the speaking time of the member be extended by a further 2 minutes.
Honorable members, the question is that the speaking time for the honorable member be extended by a further 2 minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. All against say nay. The ayes have it. Member, you may continue.
Mr. Presiding Officer, we should not criminalize bullying simply because most issues start in the families. Mr. Presiding Officer, let us turn a negative into a positive. Positive benefits from being a victim of bullying can be knowledge, motivation, or even self-control. Mr. Presiding Officer, in conclusion, as I indicated earlier, that we should not criminalize bullying, as I strongly link bullying to the roles of families. A healthy home produces a healthy child. The president of the National PTA, Ms. Rafina Ali Bunasing, recently did a television interview advising us not to label our children as criminals. Despite them being bullies, we often tend to mess with them mentally. Mr. Presiding Officer, instead of criminalizing bullying, let us now focus strongly on mending families. Parents need to be re-educated on responsibilities in their children's lives. Increase counselors in schools, form groups which every child is comfortable enough to express the problems they are faced with. Mr. Presiding Officer, I do thank you.
Minority Leader and Member for Lands for Me. For Political Lands for Me, Speyside.
Mr. Presiding Officer, the person that created this motion doesn't have all the oars in the water. Mr. Presiding Officer, is it only now that we are aware under the 5th schedule that we are responsible for education? Look at the numerous amount of incidents, Mr. Presiding Officer. Look at this article here. dated Thursday, 18 January 2018, where it saw a plead from the tutor president, Mr. Presiding Officer, I would say a plead, where he asked for the Division of Education, Innovation and Energy to address the issue of indiscipline, bullying, and violence at the schools across the island, Mr. Presiding Officer. I would like to ask the majority, were you responsible then? Mr. Presiding Officer, is this another Donald Trump concept? Are we creating initiatives without the necessary logistics and then expecting them to be successful? Mr. Presiding Officer, based on the Google definitions here, we wouldn't be using that. I would be citing American Psychological Association that says bullying is the act of conducting an act to have power or control over another person. Persons can be bullied either verbally, by name calling, physically to be tripped, socially to be ignored, psychologically to be manipulated. But Mr. Presiding Officer, I have listed common types of bullying, and I am sure that many of the youths here have been victims or perpetrators of bullying in their school. I remember when I began school, the first thing I heard was, hey, give me a $5. But Mr. Presiding Officer, I wasn't disrespected, I wasn't humiliated. I don't consider that to be verbal bullying, but I wasn't physically hurt as well. Would that be within the walls of the bullying campaign? That is a question that I would like to know. I am sure that the island of Tobago would like to know who would be a part of this committee. Would students be trained to be social workers to be on this committee? Would it comprise of victims of bullies, social workers, parents? What is the goal, visions? I haven't heard anybody talk about certain things like that. Which students would be there? As an island, for the past years, we have entrusted the issues into the hands of trained individuals with no trace of development.
And I remember, your time has expired.
Mr. Presiding Officer, I beg to move the speaking time for the member to be extended a further 2 minutes.
Members, the question is that the speaking time for the member be extended by 2 minutes. All in favor say aye? Aye. All against? The ayes have the member.
Here we go. To talk about the fact that we have entrusted this issue into the hands of trained persons all the time. I am sure that we would not like to send our brothers and sisters into school with hard helmets and bulletproof vests. And as the minority, we believe in accountability. And I'm in support of eradicating the issue of bullying in schools, but with the correct systems in place. Mr. Presiding Officer, there is the Anti-Bullying Association of Trinidad and Tobago, Student Support Services, Life Skills Families in Action Childline, and this doesn't include the Department of Education. Mr. Presiding Officer, the field is too concentrated. Why should another initiative be put in place? Are these organizations even effective? How do we track their success? How many resources does the government intend to waste? Financial and human resources are limited. And I am sure that as an island of Tobago, we would like all these questions answered. An article was published last month in the Journal of Criminology, and it says that the anti-bullying programs have the opposite than intended effects. So why don't we take pattern? Why don't we try to at least do something different? Is it that the motion is here to underlie that you are ready to hand over this to the youths? Because if it is, we are ready. Mr. Presiding Officer, this campaign is another attempt to add a fresh face to an old body and expect different results. Mr. Presiding Officer, I close by saying that the minority would like to assist in rebuilding this body so that the fresh face fits perfectly.
Member for Goodwood, Bell Garden.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer, for giving me the opportunity to speak. I wish I had the time to sugarcoat the truth, wrap it up like a KC candy, and offer you it to taste. But time is of the vanilla essence, and I am going to go straight to the heart of the cake and extract the sweet repeat a naked truth that all forms of bullying should never be treated the same, and that the saying, sticks and stones may break my words, but bones cannot. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words cannot harm me, has proven to be true. We must first acknowledge the definition of bullying. According to the article on the 11th of January 2018 from childline.org.uk, it is when someone keeps doing or saying something to have power or control over another person. Bullying takes all forms and fashions, such as verbally, physically, socially, and psychologically. Mr. Presiding Officer, it seems like the members of the majority are misguided that these are not the same. All these viral videos of school fights may soon be reduced with the implementation of new National School Code of Conduct. Do the members of the opposite really believe that youth-friendly support systems will work? Seriously? Mr. Presiding Officer, let us realize the real lies of the majority and not be misguided. We are too intelligent for that. We may ask ourselves, how in the world can bullying have a positive impact on our lives? But according to the thoughtcatalog.com, some lessons Virginia Castiglione learned from being bullied are, and I quote, 1. There is always something better for me in the big world. Being bullied for so long has taught me not to settle for something mediocre and to always look for ways in which I can make my life better. 2. I deserve respect, but the fact that I deserve it doesn't mean I'll automatically get it. It's unfair, but it's true. There are people out here who just want to walk all over you if they can. And 3, in a way, high school never ends, so we may as well learn to live with it. Chief Secretary Kelvin Charles has condemned recent incidents of violence at the island schools. At the Wednesday post-executive council media briefing held at the administrative complex in Collar Hall, Honorable Charles referred
Honorable Member, your time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I beg to extend the speaking time a further 2 minutes.
Honorable members, the question is that the speaking time for the honorable member be extended by a further 2 minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it, member. You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. So the Honorable Charles referred to 2 incidents where parents went into 2 separate schools and assaulted teachers. It is a growing tendency for parents to go into schools and commit acts of violence against teachers. So I wish to condemn in the strongest possible terms the 2 recent attacks by parents on school personnel. The female parent who on video confessed an assault on a male teacher at the Bonaccord Primary School, and the most recent assault or attack by a female parent on the principal of the Signal Hills Secondary School. These acts of violence at places of learning will not be tolerated, and particularly in a society that is supposed to have respect for the process of law and order, he said. Mr. Presiding Officer, we have to recognize that it is a cultural thing for people to call each other names. Yes, you can implement these systems and policies in schools, but how much would it cost the economy of this country? How effective is this going to be, and what impact would it have on students? We must ask ourselves these. You cannot shelter a child. When he or she goes into the real world, how are they going to react when they encounter such situations? They have to learn to stand up for themselves and defend themselves. How can words break you when most of them are said by mistake or don't have any meaning? We, the minority, profoundly believe that although bullying may hurt you, it cannot and should not break you. Mr. Presiding Officer, I thank you.
Member for Plymouth, Golden Lane.
So I have been sitting here, thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. So I have been sitting here and I am appalled at some of the comments made by the majority. I would like to quote the member for Mason Hall. we cannot put a price to bullying, but no price has been put to the program that you all would like to launch. Mr. Presiding Officer, it's so sad to see the majorities being myopically misguided to the fact that all forms of bullying can be treated the same. A rose called by any other name is still a rose, but unfortunately the petals in their roses are withered because they fail to see the truth of the matter. Now, they are here supporting this youth forum, but no positivity was highlighted. Now, I would like to zero in on a positive example of Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey grew up in a very hard household. She was very poor and she had to go to school in potato sacks. Fortunately enough, we have shirts, skirts, shoes to go to school, and sadly we are being bullied. But Oprah Winfrey had to go to school in potato sacks. And persons tell her, you know what, you will never make it. Where is Oprah for today? She owns her own network, literally owns her own network. She is one of the highest paying females in the world. Now, the majority here is focusing so negatively, but what are the positives of these programs? Not one mention was made about the resources, who will facilitate it, and what are the benefits of this program. Now, one of the quotes that I would like to take from Oprah Winfrey is that she said, what I've learned in these early ages is that we are responsible for our lives. And some people become so conscious that they tend to take apathy, peer on challenges, or even their own circumstances. But what we fail to realize is we need to turn them into possibilities. Now, they claim that they want to give task force the responsibility of this. They are doing an excellent job to prevent crime. But if we give task force the responsibility to ensure that bullying ceases, the next thing task force needs to ensure is that we study, that we end gluttony and we exercise regularly. Where is the morality? Where is the responsibility? Get creative. We already have so many resources that we can use. How about starting posters or contests to help those who are bullied? Now, I would like to draw an illustration. No doubt most of us coming here, the radio was playing. If a particular song is being played over and over, what is the natural thing for us to do? Change it or lock it off. If we continue just to have these youth programs, what do you think the bullies will eventually do? Not shut you off, lock you...
Honorable member, your time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Mr. Presiding Officer, I beg to move the speaking time of the member to be extended a further 2 minutes.
Honorable members, the question is that the speaking time for the honorable member be extended by a further 2 minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. All against? The ayes have it. Member, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. So if we are listening to a song on the radio over and over again, our natural inclination is to change the channel. Similarly, if this is our only alternative to prevent bullying, don't you think that the bully will eventually shut you off, don't want to listen to you anymore? The words that are passing through his ears will go through the next. Why? Because it's so repetitive. Let's get creative. Let's come up with different means, as mentioned earlier, do poster competition, rap competitions to help these bullies. We don't want them to feel as if they are victims. As I conclude, I would like to leave with a statement from no other than Oprah Winfrey. Turn your wounds into wisdom, and unfortunately, the majority is lacking it today. I thank you.
The member for Scarborough, Calder Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Good afternoon, Mr. Presiding Officer. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of this motion. Good afternoon to my colleagues on the other side and to the members in the public gallery. This motion focuses on creating a youth-led awareness campaign that will bring youth-friendly support and youth rehabilitation to bullies. As we know, bullying is a systematically and chronically physical hurt and psychological distress on one or more person or individual. However, it is defined bullying is not just a child's play, but a terrifying experience many students face every day. It can be as direct as teasing, hitting, or threatening, or indirect as, in conclusion, exclusion, rumors, or manipulations. During the past decade, bullying has become more lethal and has occurred more frequently than it had in the previous 2 decades, according to internet research. There are 3 common types of bullying. The first type of bullying is verbal bullying. Verbal bullying is where someone writes or says mean things to others. This type of bullying includes teasing, name-calling, and taunting. The second type of bullying is physical bullying. Physical bullying is where someone hurts a person's body or possession. This includes hitting, kicking, punching, and taking or breaking someone's possession. And finally, psychological bullying. This is where someone harms a person's social standing or reducing a person's willingness to socialize through bullying. Mr. Presiding Officer, according to statistics, the first global school-based student health survey conducted in 2007 in Trinidad and Tobago for secondary schools from 1 to 4, from 25 schools in Trinidad and 7 schools in Tobago, 20.8% of students were bullied during the period under study. Mr. Presiding Officer, on seeing what is going on today in society of bullying, how can the members on the other side believe that sticks and stones may break my bones and words can harm me? Mr. Presiding Officer, students have lived with a burden. Sticks and stones can break my bones and words can harm me. How can they say that? Do they not care about our generation? We want our generation to only show love to others and to become successful. Have you ever heard of an old saying, no man is an island? We probably heard of that a million times. To this statement, it is a fact because when we became successful, we usually achieve that because someone has helped us. I am stressing on this matter because it shows that if we carry on this task force, students will now have less stress and anxiety. Victims will not think about being or becoming a bully. This task force will continuously be funded by the TAJ, and also it will be a long-term investment to help victims. Mr. Presiding Officer, I can assure you that my colleagues and I have the determination and willingness to carry about this task force. In conclusion, I would like to ask, how does the minority say that bullying teaches you life skills?
And I remember, your time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Mr. Presiding Officer, I beg to move the speaker time to be extended by a further 2 minutes.
Be extended by a further 2 minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. Member, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. In conclusion, I would like to ask, how does a minority say that bullying teaches you life skill? Bullying often leads children to anxiety, depression, and for who have suffered enough, even leads them to suicidal thoughts. So my question, is suicide a life skill? Mr. Presiding Officer, I thank you.
Member for Blackrock, Wim Spring Garden.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer, for this opportunity as an assemblyman in this chamber and as a representative of the people and especially the youths of Tobago. Do you think that the victims of bullying should suffer emotional trauma such as fear, loss of confidence, and low self-esteem? I stand here firmly endorsing this motion that will help our youths build a better tomorrow. This motion, when implemented, will help both the bully and the victim. Mr. Presiding Officer, it is clear that the members of the August House understands what bullying is and how far-reaching it can be in creating harm to the youth. As said earlier, a task force must, I repeat, must be established to clamp down on this ugly monster called bullying. Mr. Presiding Officer, with reference to the news article in Caribbean 360 dated October the 9th, 2017, Education Minister Mr. Anthony Garcia urged students who are victims of bullying and other serious offenses to come forward. This is a clear reason why this task force is necessary. Students must be socially included, not excluded. May I repeat, not excluded. It is unfortunate that some young people are forced to accept exclusion as a new norm. Exclusion as a new norm. School must strive to provide a safe environment to all students. Mr. Presiding Officer, rehabilitation of bullies in the line of our National Code of Conduct and youth-friendly system and student-led strategies that will help the victims in an appropriate way that can cramp down on bullying in schools. After all, bullies don't just wake up in the morning and say, who will I bully today? No, it has factors that can cause a bully to bully someone else. Dan Oyes, from the website www.learnpsychology.org, said, some factors contribute to bullying are parents do not bond with their children as infants, and the children are born patient and aggressive and impulsive behavior. Mr. Presiding Officer, we, the members of this House, must play our part in building communities of peace and harmony in Trinidad and Tobago. That's why I suggest that we implement a preventative strategy, because prevention is better than cure. By having this strategy, it can help victims and perpetrators of bullying before violence and emotional scarring can be done. In many cases, bullying has a severe amount of emotional and physical pain that can lead to committing suicide. Mr. Presiding Officer, this preventative strategy can help by knowing and being observant to identify victims of bullying and identify students who have the tendency to be a bully, which can save lives. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent toward things that matter." Hence the reason for LIVE, looking to identify violence every day. The benefits of implementing LIVE is to save our youth's lives, to make schools more safer environments for all, to produce productive men and women in this society. School intervention can go a long way towards preventing bullying. School district can educate parents, teachers, and students about bullying and create anti-bullying policies that protect the students. Well, I must say, the minority side thinks that bullying is just, you just rub it off and just go along with life. As one of the minorities said, that they can achieve scholarships and go on to be better men and women in society. I beg to differ. Because bullying can cause a psychological damage that can negatively impact you in your education. It can negatively impact you in your social life. How can someone who is being bullied be just saying, what if? I have no one to help me. Yes, there are strategies that can help them, but are they doing anything for students? Are students are being afraid to come up and say, I'm afraid. Someone's trying to threaten me. If they come up, the strategies that you so-called that can help students, it doesn't help, because if they come up and say, I'm being bullied, they might some others might threaten them, right? And threaten your students' lives. And that can cause a stress on a student. And how can a student function in schools when they are being bullied? They don't even feel to go to school when they are being bullied. They run because they are bullied.
And I remember your time has expired.
Somebody say for me.
Honorable members, the question is, whereas the Tobago House of Assembly has the responsibility for secondary school education in Tobago under the 5th schedule of the Constitution, and whereas the THA Department of Education has a structure complete with staff to deal with the to deal with administrating education on the island, and whereas any challenges with the education system, such as bullying, falls within the remit of the Education Division, and whereas bullying has escalated to crisis proportions in schools, be it resolved that the members in this House create a task force to develop a student-led awareness campaign against bullying. Be it further resolved that this task force identify youth-friendly support systems for victims and rehabilitation options for perpetrators of bullying that can be implemented by students. And be it further resolved that this task force commit to working with the Division of Education, Innovation and Energy and the Division of Sports and Youth Affairs to implement the recommendations of this House. All in favor say aye. Aye. All against? Yeah. The ayes have it. This motion is carried.
Mr. Presiding Officer, I beg to move that this House stands adjourned to a date to be fixed.
Honorable members, the question is that this House now stand adjourned to a date to be fixed. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned to a date to be fixed.
Good afternoon again. Permit me to also recognize in the audience Assemblyman Farley Augustine and Assemblyman Jomo Pitt. Good afternoon. At this time, I'd want to welcome the Clerk of the Assembly Legislature, Mrs. Sharon Irvin Comby, to bring welcome remarks.
Madam Presiding Officer, Dr. Denise Soyafat Angus, Chief Secretary, Honorable Kelvin Charles, other secretaries, administrators, members of the media, students, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome. It is my privilege to welcome you to the 6th Annual Assembly Legislators Youth Plenary Sitting. This sitting is an opportunity for our youths to air their views on issues that may affect them and also give an opportunity to hone their debating skills. It is with great pleasure that we have had to present this to you, and I'm sure that you would have been entertained by the speeches, by the presentations of our young people. So once again, good afternoon, welcome, enjoy.
Thank you, Mrs. Comby. At this time, we want to welcome to bring remarks the presiding officer of the Assembly Legislature, Dr. Denise Soyafat Angus. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome her.
Permit me to recognize in his absence the Honorable Kelvin Charles, Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, other members of the executive, Assemblyman Farley Augustine, member of the minority, all of the student participants in this debate here this evening and their support staff, the members in the public viewing gallery and viewing elsewhere, our esteemed judges, and the Clerk of the Assembly, Mrs. Sharon Irvin Cumby. Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good afternoon to all. I am very excited by the performance from all of these students here today, students, youth leaders. Join me in giving them another round of applause. This time of year is special for us as we join in the Tobago Day celebrations. A time for us as Tobagonians to reflect on the foundation upon which we stand and celebrate the building blocks of the present and find meaningful ways to express an understanding of our development, both individually and collectively. This sitting is therefore held in December usually, and this one, we're in the pre-December stage, but we'll accept that it is December. But it is usually done in December as part of the Tobago Day celebrations, marking the reconstitution of the Tobago House of Assembly, while showcasing future leaders who give hope of brighter tomorrows and their vision of a better Tobago. Again this year, we have had volunteers from about 10 schools across the island, including the UWI Open Campus and past alumni. A total of 28 participants, 11 of whom are from the three past study tours, 2016, 2017, and 2018. And one who represented Tobago at the National Youth Plenary and today has demonstrated strong skills as our presiding officer. I am even more pleased with the fact that for the first time this year, 2 of the 11 who have traveled to the UK and gained exposure, they are now trainers of the new participants to the program. That speaks to progress. Give them a round of applause. And so today we saw an inspiring mix of experience and youthful exuberance resulting in a successful debate. Thanks to the trainers and all the students and alumni participating today. Special thanks, though, must go to parents, teachers, and principals who have bought into this vision, and we say thanks for your continued support. Go ahead. The legislature's focus is to protect and promote its legacy of democracy. Understanding that achieving those objectives in a large part depend on an educated and informed electorate, the Youth Assembly initiative is significant to that end. Over the last 2 years, there has been an increasing thrust to expand the concept of youth debating in a chamber to an appreciation and hopefully an inspiration to young people that careers in the legislature extend beyond standing and giving a speech. It was in 2017, just last year, we introduced many other supporting areas like Hansard recorders, a photographer, and a communications officer. This year, we have built on that platform to include live interviews with our student photographer, Jeremy. I hope if you haven't had an interview yet, that you will participate before leaving, as this is also an important way of getting you, the public, involved. This year, the growth has been to go beyond standing and debating, to give a greater appreciation for the work of the standing orders, the use of statements in the House, questions to secretaries, written responses, and even petitions in fostering a stronger environment of democracy. And today, I am sure you will all agree that they have certainly done well in demonstrating all aspects. The theme on bullying was chosen as the youth felt it was an area that they can be responsible for in their environment, and also encourages a clear process for collaboration with the Division of Education. I must commend both sides for their strong views and information shared. They certainly demonstrated their commitment to doing a lot of research and delivering accurate information in the House. We all learned a lot, I am sure. I certainly did. It is my firm view that as Tobago agitates for greater autonomy, we must be able to demonstrate responsibility for the decision-making process and also demonstrate capacity and sustainability of democratic principles of modern parliaments. The initiative, therefore, aims to holistically prepare a number of young people to participate in the democratic process apart from a polling station or representation, but to be a part of a larger system that upholds democracy. That means we must have equipped minds and courageous voices of young people who can appreciate where we came from and are willing to contribute intellectually, socially, and voluntarily to a continuously evolving assembly for the people. The students, as you heard in the statement at the start of the debate, have also been exposed to parliaments internationally that are comparable to Tobago. To date, the Welsh, Scottish, and Jersey parliaments, in addition to the Westminster Parliament, have been their experiences. These visits are critical in shaping young minds and preparing them to meaningfully contribute to the conversation on Tobago's autonomy and their active involvement in its development. A project such as this couldn't be achieved without the continued partnership of the National Lottery Commission's Board, NLCB, whose commitment to youth and community programs in Tobago must be applauded. Please. "2019, though, is expected to be very exciting. 2018, though, has been especially exciting. As we launched the Festival of Politics in November, this month, introducing the legislature to the people through fun projects involving various age groups and sectors of the community. The participants in the competition on My First Speech for adults and students were showcased earlier. I hope you were as impressed as I was with the diverse expressions of the theme, What Democracy Means to Me. There were 3 submissions for the poster competition, which you will see before the afternoon is over. I want you to give those participants you saw on the interviews through the technology a round of applause. As I always say to all contestants, you are a winner as long as you participate. It's just a matter of time that they will someday call your name, so never give up. Festival of Politics will also include a mystery night at the legislature, and in March and April, the speech and poster competition will be extended to primary schools since we have been receiving a lot of calls. 2019 will be even more exciting as the Assembly Legislature has been collaborating with the Division of Sport and Youth Affairs to develop an ongoing youth parliament which mirrors almost all aspects of an established parliament, including more than the annual debate and a component to execute manageable projects in schools and communities. And I see Secretary Pitt there. Thank you for the commitment to collaborate on this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, with change comes challenges. And I wish to thank you for your patience with us while we surmounted our early issues with the introduction of the new initiatives using technology. I hope that I was successful in my task here this afternoon to engage you in a stimulating conversation while the judges complete their work. And so I'm looking for my cue now to wrap up. But before taking my leave, I wish to thank the judges because their work is never easy. Mr. Julian Skeet, you have been with us long enough, you're part of us. Mr. Michael Stewart, give him a round of applause. Give them encouragement. Mr. Dion Isaac. I want to thank you all for your contribution of time and effort to this worthy cause. We have a new moderator this afternoon. We want to thank Ms. Avion Hercules. And of course, my dedicated staff, beginning with the Clerk of the Assembly, Mrs. Sharon Irving Comby, Ms. Sophia Cooper, Marcus Woods, Delia O'Neill, and all the rest of staff. I want to especially thank the members of the Tobago House of Assembly Legislature. I know that you are all extremely busy, but I really want to thank you for your presence and your support to this initiative with the young people. I thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, just one more time, give it up for the presiding officer, Dr. Denise Sawyer Fat Angus. At this time, we invite the judges to bring, at this time, we will go into the distribution of certificates. And would want to call on Dr. Angus one more time to help us to distribute to the students. All right. So at this time, we'd want to call Ms. Rayanne Beckles. Ms. Cindy Belfon. All right, when you hear your name, please proceed to the center. Ms. Rachel Brewster. Wait. Rachel Brewster. All right. Mr. Jeremy Chapman. Miss Kimberly Cox. Miss Rayan Daniel. Yes. And Miss Jessica Forbes. Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. At this time, we would like to call on Mrs. Sharon Comby, the Clerk of the House, to present the certificates of participation. Keelan Jack. Come in. Terven James. Miss Giovanna Jennings. Miss Aliva Lindsay. And Mr. Siobhan King. Miss Siobhan King. And we thank Mrs. Comby for giving us her support, and we invite Mr. Shomari Hector, Assemblyman Shomari Hector, to distribute the next batch of certificates. Tamaki Lindsay. Malek Lyons. Katoya Utley. Rayanne Roberts. and Alex Job Thomas. Thank you, Assemblyman Hector. And as he presents this to Mr. Thomas, we would like to invite Dr. Agatha Carrington to please distribute the next batch of certificates to the participants. Michael Thomas. Andriel J. Wheeler. Javon Williams. Maya Ray.
Not here. No, she's coming. She's coming from the audience. She's coming.
Tulani James. Julani James. Kia K. Kawal. Kenise Map.
Yeah.
And as Kenise receives her certificate of participation from Dr. Carrington, we thank you so much. We would like to call on Assemblyman Farley Augustine to present the next batch of certificates. Kyle Pierre. Antonia Jerome. Ajay Allen. And Genomoret Pitcher. At this time, we have, there are 3 additional tokens of appreciation to be awarded, and we'd like to call Dr. Denise Soyafat Angus back to the center stage. Thank you, Mr. Augustine. To give the certificates of appreciation to the first judge, Mr. Michael A.T. Stewart. Mr. Stewart is the chief judge. Sorry. Technology, my earpiece, you know. Then we'd like to call Mr. Dion Isaac. These judges have had a hard time adjudicating the process, so give them a round of applause, please. And finally, by no means the least, we'd like to call on Mr. Julian Skeet, the Chief Judge, in the process. Thank you, Dr. Angus. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for the judges and the participants. And I ask Mr. Skeet to take the stand to bring the judges' remarks. Mr. Skeet.
Thank you very much to our chairperson for today. Let's say it for our chair for this program. Let me recognize the presiding officer in the Tobago House of Assembly, Dr. Denise Sawyer-Fat Angus. I want to also take the opportunity to recognize among us the secretaries. I see my very own secretary there, Assemblyman Jomo Pitt. I'm joining the public gallery and all other secretaries and assistant secretaries in the midst here today. Let me recognize Clerk of the Assembly, Mrs. Sharon Irvin Comby. Let me also recognize Minority Assemblyman Farley Augustine, and also all other specially invited guests, parents and students here today. And forgive me, as I usually like to say, if I have left the best for last. And most important, our youth presiding officer and members of this Youth Tobago House of Assembly and our young people. Let me indicate that it continues to be a distinct pleasure and joy for me to participate in a session like this and to continue to be involved, moving from the point of one sitting on those chairs as a youth assemblyman and also now sitting to observe and to encourage youth development and participation in the governance process by our young persons, certainly something that deserves commendation. So let's hear it for our young persons. I want to take the opportunity as well to indicate that I'm giving remarks on behalf of our judges today, former member of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Dion Isaac, and also communication consultant, Mr. Michael Stewart. Now for us, as you would have recognized, that 2018 marked an extension or development rather of the Youth Assembly debate, and it would have also included the My First Speech competition, which the presiding officer spoke to in greater detail. Now, we would have had the opportunity to get here much earlier than you all, and to be able to go through the respective videos in an effort to identify and to recognize the outstanding persons who would have submitted in the categories for both adults and students. And I would start in that instance by giving general comments and remarks as I've been requested to. From the videos, we would have found, in terms of the presentation regarding what democracy means to me, that the content was quite good from the individuals that would have presented in most of the presentations. Some chose the option of sticking more so to what the statistics would have conveyed in relation to a historical perspective and references to the Tobago House of Assembly and by extension Trinidad and Tobago in terms of defining democracy. And some would have opted to look at what we would have crafted or defined rather more creative and passionate ways to present their information. And therefore, we want to take the opportunity collectively to commend what we deem as certainly the gathering of information that we may probably only normally read when there's an inauguration or something of that sort, and all the media houses telling you about the historical perspective of the THA. And what we found is that this competition was able to bring a lot of that information to us at the forefront, and therefore we want to commend the persons that would have participated. I also want to indicate to persons that we felt it was particularly good as well. For some, as technology permits, they chose to stay in the comfort of their homes and their bedrooms and the outdoor space. Some chose to also take the opportunity to showcase our very beautiful island by virtue of the areas that they chose to actually record their My First Speech, in terms of, again, lending to creativity and a greater sense of purpose beyond just providing feedback and just providing information relevant to the speech, but also taking up that personal responsibility that we are all required to in terms of really promoting our island, Tobago. So again, we extend commendations to all participants in the My First Speech competition. And with that, I will identify the winners for the competition of the My First Speech. In third position, we have a tie for third in the adults category. And if the persons are here, they're free to come forward. That's Khadija Manswell and Jaron Smith. Let's hear it for those two individuals. He seems to be pleasantly surprised. And we would have also had a tie for first place. So therefore, the winners in the adult category of the My First Speech competition, Lennox Roberts and Dexter Wilson. And we move on to the students category. In third position for our students, we have Donisha Stewart. In second position, Shanika Balgobin. And in first position, Kizia Sovrol. All right, and we see Kizia coming forward. So let's hear it for all our winners in the My First Speech competition.
Let's hear it one more time for all the winners. And the prizes, if you know, they won fantastic prizes. The third place winner won, in the student category, won $2,000. And the second placed winner, $3,000. And the first place, $5,000. Fantastic prizes, yeah? In the adult category, the third place winners won $2,000, the second prize of $4,000, and the first prize a $6,000 thing. And so we'd want to invite all the winners. If you've heard your name, please come forward to the center of the chamber, and we'd want to invite Dr. Angus one more time so you can take a picture. Straight ahead. All the winners. As she makes her way to the center, we want to recognize the presence of Tare Alexander, who was adjudicated the best speaker at the National Parliamentary Debate. Please, could you stand so we know who you are? Yes, I am reminded, a former Bishopian and Tobagonian by birth, Tare is currently a sixth form student at the Pleasantville Senior Comprehensive School. And thank you, winners, thank you, Dr. Angus.
One of the winners says to me, Skeeter, I'm surprised. I wonder if it's the winning or the prizes. But let's hear it for Assembly Legislature in terms of really giving to our continued growth and development. And I could tell almost immediately with the expression on some faces, I could tell Dr. Angus with confidence, we're going to have much more participants come next year. All right, folks, with that we move to the highlight of today, our youth debate. And again, let's start off by giving a round of applause to all our participants. Allow me to indicate that for us, when we would have looked very broadly at the presentations, and then we thought to ourselves, flowing from my first speech and then coming in to go full speed ahead, we want to take the opportunity as the judging panel to really commend what appeared to be that general level of confidence in terms of the presentations coming forth from all of you young persons here today. Give yourselves a round of applause. We would have also noted a very strong minority team in terms of very good rebuttal style, in terms of their respective presentations and flowing. We also want to take the opportunity to indicate that for some, and you see there's no compromise in the world for the value of good public speaking skills, because it helps you to convey your message at the end of the day. And we really want to encourage the young persons. In some instances, we saw that we were able to see that you took the time out in terms of preparing with regards to your presentation. And therefore, as a result of that, we could always make a distinction, and I always remind students about this and young people. It's not very difficult to make a distinction between somebody who is bluffing or trying to take their way forward and somebody who is definitely comfortable and has a level of comfort and flexibility with their material to be able to move from the document and still comfortably flow. And we saw that in some of our speakers here this evening. So again, give yourselves a round of applause. We ought to commend for the very stern management of the House. I don't know who you learned that from. Generally, people give a little flexibility in between, but commendations to the youth presiding officer in terms of, and I'm sure I think repeatedly we heard the audience saying, oh God, not even a little more time. We want to note again for us, you know, when you sit there and you hear the many references to Google, you smile. And one of the judges say, well, you know, it's the generation in terms of the Google reference time. But I just want to remind you that, of course, Google guides you to several sources, but you ought to use the content in an effort to develop and to reference the relevant areas. But I suppose the easier reference was Google, so I'll challenge you next time to go even further than just the Google references, to give an indication of what Google has really revealed to you in terms of the relevant sources. We want to indicate as well, there were some references, and we want the young persons particularly to pay attention in terms of your use of grammar and the English language. Sometimes in the excitement and the exuberance to be able to deliver something that is energetic, you miss some very basics. And there's nothing like an energetic presentation that comes with poor grammar and poor pronunciation. People forget the energy, but they remember the error. So I want to encourage you that when you are coming, especially with that level of confidence, please let it be associated directly with what is right and what is correct, and add all the flair and style that you want, and indeed your message will be certainly conveyed in an impactful manner. All right? Again, very pleasing to see from some of our speakers in terms of the making pronunciation, something very important in terms of how they present their information. The use of rhetorical questions, always a winner once you actually give your audience, time to think about what you have said. And then certainly there were certain areas based on the presentations that called for a reinforcement. And I was very pleased with what I would deem an improvement this year, because what we saw is sometimes people make the statement, because they want to drive home the point, let me repeat this. And it was important that after some of our speakers spoke, they paused to allow you to think about it and then just reinforce with the statement itself and the message, while you were still able to drive the message home. Again, looking at modifications in terms of how you present, commendations to our young people. We want to encourage you to continue, and of course, let this be the continuation for most, if not all of you all, in terms of continued development of those related skills, public speaking, debating. I know that we also have the scenario now in schools with the development of student councils, and as the members of the judging panel, we really want to continue to encourage that as much as possible, because we have the firm opinion that if you are to continue in this vein, and of course doing the necessary research as well, in order to ensure that you have the relevant background and historical data to support some of your points, it really puts you in an excellent position to make a fundamental difference. And something that I think I ought to commend as well this year, because I've been assisting with this program from its inception as a judge, and in this 6th year, it's very good to see that the presentation styles of our speakers did not exactly place emphasis on attempting to mimic what you see usually in the assembly or what you may see in parliaments across the region. You brought your own style to this 6th year of presentation, and that is very commendable. So for all those others gathered, I usually like to, of course, take every opportunity I get when I speak to persons to remind you of how critical it is to continue to support our young people in every possible aspect of life. As I like to say very firmly, by me, young people do no wrong. And even if it seems wrong, I will help them to find the right way. Let's hear it again for our young persons. I also want to take the time out to extend some commendations in his absence. The Chief Secretary and then Presiding Officer 6 years ago would have been involved in the establishment of this youth assembly that would have started here, following which it would have seen the first study tour in 2016. So let's extend commendations to then Presiding Officer. And I want to fast track to 2018 and extend commendations as well to Dr. Denise Hoyer-Fatangas, the current Presiding Officer. Because by my estimations and my information, this, while this was the 3rd study tour that took place in 2018, led by the Assembly Legislature, it is my information that it was the first study tour that actually had the presiding officer, the sitting presiding officer, as head of the delegation and a sitting secretary in the person of Assemblyman Jomo Pitt as part of the delegation going forward. So we definitely seeing progress in the movement of the Tobago Youth Assembly and the study tour. Let's hear it, a round of applause. Of course, I would want to take the opportunity to even extend further commendations on the basis of where we have seen the expansion of this program, not simply to just incorporate the Youth Assembly debate, but also the entire Festival of Politics. And I like the creativity and the touch with it. From the time you hear festival, I'm ready to lime and enjoy the thing. And we can do that and we can have fun as we learn about our democracy in the process. So let's hear it for the Festival of Politics. And it would be remiss of me if I didn't take time out to also observe the young person that appears to be a 2nd or 3rd former let me add on a fourth former just in case you say, but here, know my age. But very young combination in the mix of our youth members of the House today. Second form, right? Assemblyman Farley Augustine just confirmed for me. As second former, again, I think it is exceptional because sometimes we think that it's only time to bring young persons to the Youth Assembly when you have to present, so to speak, in terms of, and you have your speech right, and you have done this for enough time. But the exposure is critical in terms of the growth and the development of our young persons. So again, commendations to the teachers, the schools, and also the Assembly legislature in terms of bringing it together. A round of applause. And we move to the results. All our speakers have really tried their very best. Give them all a round of applause. And we have, in terms of our outstanding speakers, running in third with 78.66 as the average score, we wish to call on That was the call. That was the call. The representative for Providence, Mason Hall, Mariah, Alex Job Thomas. In second position, with 80.33 points, we call on the representative for Goodwood Belgarden, Rianne Beckles. And ladies and gentlemen, in first position, and you see, when you saw it in the mix long enough, you recognize it and you smile. I would like to say she probably followed a trend. She would have moved from youth presiding officer last year, an independent position, and then she decided she wanted to enter the politics as the minority leader for this year. Palliative lands from Miss Speyside, Miss Jessica Forbes, in first position with 86.33 points. Once again, let's hear it for all our young persons. Congratulations on a job well done. Thank you.
And again, we call on the presiding officer, Dr. Denise Soifat Angus, to join the winners for a photo opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, the winners of the debate competition. And of course, you all are all winners here. So give yourselves another round of applause. And so, as we come to a close of today's session, it falls on me to give thanks to a number of persons who would have contributed to the success of this project. The presiding officer, Dr. Denise Soifat Angus, we thank you so much for keeping the doors of the Assembly Legislature open to all, including our young people, and for encouraging the dialogue and education process regarding politics and democracy. So we thank you very, very much. We also thank the Honorable Kelvin Charles in his absence, the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, and his team, all the assemblymen, those present and those who are here with us in spirit. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule, your busy schedule, to come and to participate and support the students. Thank you to the minority team as well for being here. We thank the students and the teachers and the schools. This is particularly important, as Mr. Skeet would have indicated, that it's important for you to participate in the process so that there's continuity and then there's longevity, there's sustainability of the entire process. So we thank you for your endeavors. We want to thank the parents as well for embracing the challenge to work with your students, work with your children. We thank the judges. Oh my, wow, to be a judge at that table, that may have been a difficult situation. But we thank you, Mr. Skeet, Mr. Isaac, and Mr. Stewart, again, for your hard work and your contribution. I see logos, so I know that we have sponsors. We thank all the sponsors who would have seen this as a worthy experience to support, and so we thank them. To the caterers, the clerk of the assembly, Mrs. Comby, thank you so much. The caterers, the staff of the legislature, the media, the viewers in the public gallery. Listen, we need to see you a lot more in this public gallery. So give yourselves a round of applause for coming out and supporting. And of course, to those of you who are watching, wherever you are in the globe, we thank you for supporting and for tuning in. And again, to all those who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes, making every single contribution, we thank you. Just a housekeeping announcement. We're going to ask all the winners, and as well as all the participants, to come forward in the center to take, and members of the Tobago House of Assembly present, to come forward to take a photo session with the Honorable Presiding Officer. And as we close, after the photo session, we invite you to join us for refreshments, just outside. Yes. And those members who are in the public viewing gallery, we invite you to go and take interviews with our youth media.
Right, and there you have it. That was the 6th annual youth debate for the THA Day celebrations. Now we're here inside the lounge where they will have some little eats and whatnot. I have a few guests here with me, and here we're going to start off with the best national youth debater in the 16th annual Youth Parliament in Trinidad and Tobago. We have Tahir Alexander. Come on, join me here, Tahir. How are you going today?
I good. Tired.
All right, so we have Tahir here. I know you experienced the sit-in this evening, and I know you have proper well experience doing it nationally and becoming the best debater out of it. How do you think opportunities like these for young people would have on the development of the country?
I think it will have a major impact on the development because, to me, when I first was invited to do it, I really didn't want to do it because I really had my stigmas about politics and things like that. I really wasn't interested. But getting into it and realizing that when you're on the inside now looking out, you realize it's such a different thing and it's such a nice thing to get into. And I think it would really change the minds of a lot of young people to get into it, to better our country.
So you being not, you would say, into it at first, what kind of drew you to really push to really go and do it?
I don't know. A lot of people tell me that I could think that I should be a lawyer because of the way I debate and the way I talk, although I really just want to be a trainer. But to me, it really appealed to the debater in me, and I guess that just brought it out to me. That made it so interesting, and I realized politics isn't all, boring as I thought it was. It definitely is exciting.
How about being a trainer, a lawyer, you would say, because a lot of young people nowadays, they doubling up with the job opportunities and whatnot, they're having a lot of different opportunities there. So how about, doubling it up with both,
I really don't think they would work together because a trainer is a full-time job, a lawyer is a full-time job, a politician is a full-time job, so it would definitely be one specific career goal. So it could be one after the other, but definitely not the two at the same time.
All right. Tell me about anybody who motivates you or whatnot like that.
Who motivates me?
Or who pushes you to do your best along that line.
It might sound a little bit selfish, but I will have to say myself. It might, because the thing is that a lot of people could put a lot of effort into you, but to me it takes you in order to take that effort and do well and make those people proud. So I definitely say that I motivate myself.
All right. Thank you so much. And keep doing your good work for all the young people in Trinidad and Tobago. All right. So we're here, at the youth chamber. I think I have some more people here to interview. We have Assemblyman Shumari Hector here. Some simple questions, So we have Assemblyman Shumari Hector here. So now that you have seen the sitting today, right? And apparently the quality keeps on getting better and better, right? How do you see an opportunity like this benefiting the young people on developing Tobago much better?
Well, firstly, let me join my colleagues in congratulating all of the presenters today. I think that the contributions today represent some of the more stimulating conversations I've heard young persons being engaged in. And being a youth myself, I feel really hopeful and encouraged. By way of it translating into persons being able to advance themselves and to develop their community and their spaces, I certainly think it creates a platform, an avenue from which they can continue to expand the conversation in the home, in the community, in the churches, in the recreational spaces and the likes, that they could now begin to use the experiences here today to engender the kind of intrinsic confidence that they would need to engage these very topical and crucial issues in the wider community. I certainly think that we are the ones for whom we have been waiting. I put that in the context of young people, obviously. Right? We are the ones for whom we have been waiting, and as we imbibe the opportunity to make that impactful and meaningful contribution towards our development, we would definitely be able to do so as we give voice to our concerns, as we articulate our respective views, and as we have an appreciation for difference in opinion, which is what I thought that today's contribution brought, that it wasn't adversarial, it wasn't contentious, it doesn't reflect the politics of the day, but rather a discussion relative to how we could advance, how we could grow, and how we could benefit from each other's wisdom and experiences. So I think we are in good hands, and I look forward in a few years hence for somebody to be able to sit in the seat that I sit authentically and have me serve at their pleasure as my representative. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Shumari Hector. Thank you so much. So here we just, we're in the eat room, you would say, of the Tobago Chamber, as we just concluded the youth parliament, the youth debate here at the THA Day celebrations, or Tobago Day celebrations, as you would say. Just a reminder that on the 6th and 7th at the Shaw Park Complex, starting at 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. There are a lot more events to celebrate the THA Day celebrations, as they give opportunity to young entrepreneurs to showcase their talent, and they have a lot of artists. I know they have Adana, Ufanams, Pretty, and lots more. So right now we're just looking to interview some more people. Let's see who would be interested in being interviewed. Come on, sir. Yeah. Good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm good. I glad I came. I had a cousin to the event and she invited me to come. It was an eye-opening experience.
Okay, that's great. So you just tell me your name and probably what school or what you are involved in as a young person.
Kevon Norrie, attending UTT in Trinidad generally, doing computer engineering, so I kind of defer to the thing. I just watch it online in terms of debates and stuff internationally, but this is the first time I actually came to a more local thing, and it was very interesting. I didn't expect it to be so interesting and entertaining at the same time. It was a good experience.
So do you think this opportunity is something that you would say help develop the young people in Tobago, and why do you think so?
I agree, because mostly when you talk to any young person about politics, the first thing that's come to is corruption, and nobody has want to get into it because they're afraid that if they go into it, they will become a corrupt person. But seeing this, it was glad to see that people had such a positive view to it, and they actually had serious debates about what we could do about this, particularly this task force incident. So I think it will have a better image than for people to not just say, I don't want to get into that because it's corruption. So I think that's a good plan.
So you think that this is a good initiative in, you would say, enhancing or promoting more of Tobago Day, I would say. And do you understand what Tobago Day really is? Or
Yeah, because you just mostly hear stuff like this from an international perspective, and it's good to see from a local perspective that it could be done here too. So I would agree with that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. All right, so we're here right now, part of the Tobago Day celebrations. The youth debate just concluded, and we're just here interviewing some young people who took part and people who was looking at the debate, you would say. And now we're here trying to interview some more people. Now we have the presiding officer, the youth presiding officer. How are you? I see you give a little fire there with everybody. I mean, the crowd was wondering, oh Lord, they was going so good. We give them some fire. Just tell me your name, what school you're from or whatnot, and, we'll go from
Well, look, I am Ajay Allen. I previously represented the UWI Open Campus Tobago at the youth plenary. I got the opportunity to travel to London and Wales with the study tour. And on return, I went to Trinidad to study at UTT. There, I got the opportunity to become a youth parliamentarian. Got the opportunity to debate there, learn a bit more about the debating skills and the control of the parliament. Sydney Andrews at the point was our Speaker of the House, and she was really, really strict. And I love that level of strict and keeping the House in order. Because, order is something I appreciate. So I wanted to be very similar in terms of keeping order as well there. While in Trinidad, I also had the opportunity to do interviews with the Parliament because I was selected for oratory skills as well too. So I'm not just a strict person, I can debate as well. I enjoy debating, and I also believe as young people we shouldn't evade politics and we like to say them politicians bad and we don't want to get involved. I think we should get involved because it would affect us at the end of the day. Whether taxes, whether the poor school feeding, we would be affected. So let's not say politics for the older folks, and let's get involved from pretty young.
Okay, so as you said all of that, do you would say, understand the importance of THA Day or the Tobago Day, would say, and all the activities around it, and how it develops the young people on Tobago?
I think the THA Day is critical. It's not well advertised nationally, I would say, because I believe a lot of Trinidadians are interested in what happens in Tobago or how Tobago is governed. So for the future, we could go forward in terms of marketing it as well for the young people. I think Tobago Day should be a national holiday. It should be a day where we get to really come and Lime, discuss Tobago, we should discuss Tobago affairs. And it shouldn't just be one day because Tobago is critical to the development of Trinidad and Tobago.
And I could understand when you say that it's not well promoted, because I have a lot of friends in Trinidad. When you ask them simple thing about THA, they don't really know about it. And I think there's a little disconnect between the two islands that we really need to bridge the gap. So thank you so much for being here and continue the wonderful work with the island of Tobago. Right? So next we have, this is the third place winner of the My Speech competition for the legislature. Now tell me, what really inspired you to do such a speech in this competition?
Well, I have always been interested in the electoral process. I've always been interested in politics from a very young age, because my mother was an activist in the early days, in the 80s, late 90s. So I was always around the electoral process. I would have been at political meetings from a very tender age as well. So democracy to me, and in particular the Tobago House of Assembly, because the Tobago House of Assembly has a very special place when it comes to Tobagonians. And I've always made it my civic duty to vote at every single election from the day I turned 18 until now. So for me, democracy meant a lot. So that would have inspired me to really do this speech. Now, I must admit that I did not really practice as much for it. It's not a speech that I wrote. It's something that I actually did off the top of my head. And I did it like about 5 o'clock in the morning. So whereas persons might have done their practice and rehearsals and so on, I didn't do that. If when I did the video I made a mistake, I started over again. So it was basically an ad-lib that I did off the top of my head, because I believe speeches like this about what things mean to you must come from within you and not something that you really rehearse. So I made sure that everything that I did was ad-lib from the top of my head.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much. So here we at the Tobago Chamber, the Youth Parliament just concluded, and we're just here in the room trying to interview a few people. Now I think I have the presiding officer of the Tobago House of Assembly here. Hi, Dr. Soyafat. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to your viewing audience.
Right, so what question to ask you? Okay, now I know you went on the study tour with us. This is the first time you went on the study tour with us. And you were able to see how the progress of the Jersey Parliament is. And you have come back here with the knowledge and basically, and given the opportunity to young people to have a chance to speak in the Youth Parliament. How do you think that experience has come across to the young people and going forward in Tobago as the youth development of Tobago?
I was very excited to be a part of the actual study tour itself, not just to experience other parliaments, but to see how the students absorb the information that they were receiving. And I was highly impressed with all of you who attended. You were quite engaged. You never seemed bored. You asked the appropriate questions, the questions that actually got information comparative, being able to compare it with what we have in Tobago. And so today, for all of those who were looking on, what you saw was a combination of those persons who attended the various aspects of the parliaments, Westminster and the Jersey, expressing themselves and applying what they would have learned.
Now, on the trip, because I was on the trip with you, the lesson that I kind of learned was that we could appreciate more of the stuff we have, and then we realize the stuff that we don't really have. How do you think you would say the young people who went on a trip really appreciate the things that they have and the things that we don't have in that sense?
Well, I think from them voicing it, I can tell that they had a great appreciation for the beauty of the landscape in Tobago and the fact that perhaps we can be stretched to do more with less, because that is what they saw in the Jersey Island, that environment. So I think sometimes it's over time you will see through their actions how well they absorbed what they learned and they're able to put it into action or voice it even to others.
All right, so a little earlier Mr. Alexander stated that he was kind of timid in coming into parliament or the politics, you would say. Why do you think the young people, you would say, are kind of timid to that, and do you encourage them to really come and involve themselves in being part of the youth parliament or whatnot?
Everybody likes fun. And I think perhaps we have presented politics in a way that is very serious and heavy. And that is why through the Festival of Politics that we launched, we wanted persons to know that it can be fun, it can be engaging, it can be what you make it. And so I really am excited and happy that Mr. Alexander, took up the challenge to play with us. And he actually won. And I know that he was very surprised. But that is why we want others to know that they can get involved, that there is a starting block. My first speech is the starting block for them to get into the whole cut and thrust of politics.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Presiding Officer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and let me say how proud I am of you, Jeremy, for hosting this program.
Thank you so much. Right, so we're just here interviewing a few people as the Youth Parliament just concluded. We just have Mr. Fali Augustine here now. How are you?
I'm good.
Right. So you just see the conclusion of the Parliament there. What do you think that the opportunity has given to the young people? How it can benefit Tobago?
Well, this is a momentous occasion for sure for all individuals who participated. Just imagine being a teenager and some as young as being in first form and being able to stand within the chamber where your elected representatives will stand on a normal basis and present yourself and do so well. So that in itself means a lot to the individuals. Additionally, this is about helping our young people understand that they are a part of the democratic process and a part of governance of the island. And we are inching towards that place whereby our young people can, in a more direct way, influence the motions and the things that we do inside the house. Because let's be honest, the things we do in the house are not really for today, but they are for tomorrow. And our young people will inherit those things. And additionally, as I look at the young people, I think about my own career in politics that was only started 2 years ago. But the first time I visited the chamber, I participated in a debate like this when I was in lower 6. And coincidentally, perhaps providence or luck, I sit in the same seat I sat in then. And so it says that there is a world of opportunity available for our young people, that this could be the start. And even if they are not desirous of having a career in politics now, that may eventually come, because we will always need political leaders. And so I commend the young people and I wish them all the very best with their future endeavors.
So what would you say to the young people who are, you would say, intimidated in joining politics because the quote-unquote, you would say, corruption that may occur? What do you say to those persons?
Politics is what you bring to it. And so you can choose to be different. You can choose to stand out. And although politics is centered around the group and collective responsibility, as an individual, you will always have a moral decision to make. Should I follow the pattern of my colleagues or should I stand alone? And with regards to the issue of corruption, I think those who enter politics and become corrupted were actually corruptible before. In fact, you can only bring what you have, more or less. And if you weren't corruptible before, I don't think just entering politics in and of itself will corrupt you. And I wish to say to young people that you can enter politics, you can enter teaching, you can enter the legal fraternity, medical fraternity, any career path, and not become corruptible. And that's corrupted rather. And that's something for all of our young people, especially in a country whereby the new norm seems to be leaning towards corruption. You can stand out and you can be different. You can choose to operate differently, and the world will notice. Trust me, the world will notice that you are a light amongst the darkness. And so just be your best self.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Fally Augustine. Thank you so much. And so we're here at the Tobago Chamber. We're just basically trying to wrap up. As we're here, we're going to get some eats, whatnot. We just concluded the Tobago Day celebrations for the Youth Parliament. Just a reminder that on the 6th and 7th at the Shore Park Complex, there are way more events for the Tobago Day celebration, which starts at 10 a.m. and goes on till 7 p.m. There are a lot of performances, there are a lot of opportunities for young entrepreneurs to showcase their talents. There are special performances by Adana, Preedy, and Ilfan Arms. So we do wish that you all come out and enjoy that opportunity. This is Jeremy Chapman signing off, and do have a wonderful day.